Today on
The Giovanne Show.
So are you running away or are you running towards something? And I would say that for most of my life, I was running away because I didn't know what else to do. I don't think our society or our culture, our countries globally, I think this is really a global thing, is we're not really taught how to discover what is our purpose, what is our calling.
The Giovanne Show
was presented by Misty's Adult and Family Services, Washington and California, serving communities in need through housing, case management, and shelter services.
Sasharay.com,
motivating people to success. Stay tuned and stay connected with all of our videos and interviews by subscribing at
Sasharay.com.
There you'll find our podcasts, blog articles, and insights on social services, music, and culture in Los Angeles and Seattle. Call us today to see if we can help you. Monday to Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 1-800-524-4827.
From the front lines of housing and justice to the boardrooms and beyond, this is the Giovanne Show. I'm your host, Giovanne Sasharay, and today we're talking about something we all deal with but rarely admit: imposter syndrome, boundaries, and how to stop shrinking when life calls you to step up. My guest today is the one and only Jule Kim, an executive leadership coach, keynote speaker, and one of the realest voices on LinkedIn. She helps people build confidence, show up with presence, and finally stop apologizing for their greatness. Jule, welcome to the Giovanne Show. I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you for having me, Giovanni. It's nice to see you again. It's been a while.
Yes, it definitely has. I think a little bit too long. Now, you've got this incredible energy, part coach, part comedian, all truth. But before you were helping leaders find their voice, you were in law school, corporate jobs, even photography. What's the story behind all those pivots, and what was happening internally that brought you here?
Well, that's a big question. I think that my life back when I was in my early 20s is probably what most people go through. Because on the one hand, you'll have people like my husband, his name is Jason, and he apparently knew he always wanted to be a software programmer since he was in middle school. I don't find that to be all that common when I come across all the people that I meet. Most of the people that I know and have ever met in the world, we went through high school, we went to college, we picked a major because that's what they told us to do. We graduated college, and then we sort of followed the track that we started by whatever major it was. For me, I already went into university with thinking I was going to be an English major, and then midway through first year, I switched over to being a math major. And then I go on to finish my degree in math. But I remember in junior year of college, I reached this point where I was like, wait a minute, all of my friends are going to go on to grad school. I would rather jump off a bridge than go to grad school for math. I don't know what I'm doing here. Why did I do this? And then I somehow come upon this bright idea. I know I will go to law school. And if you ask me how much thought did I actually put into that? Zero. I didn't go to any career counseling. Yeah, so as embarrassing as that sounds, I would say that that's probably been my thought process. The lack of any real thinking or critical exploration into any of these major pivots. And so if I look back, and this is now one of the biggest questions I like to ask my own clients is, so are you running away or are you running towards something? And I would say that for most of my life, I was running away because I didn't know what else to do. I don't think our society or our culture, our countries globally, I think this is really a global thing, is we're not really taught how to discover what is our purpose, what is our calling, what's that thing that you're really meant to do. And unfortunately, if you're not like my husband, then you're probably going to require some more exploration, some more means of figuring out what all is out there and what really suits your personality. So in order for you to figure out any of this, you have to first know who you are. What do you like? What do you not like? And unfortunately, I found this out like the hard and long way by actually going into the careers. So I go to law school, I end up in Iowa, the middle of nowhere, and then I drop out. I end up moving over here to Seattle. I entered the corporate world because I was like, I don't know what else to do. I had a pretty successful blog during law school. And then I spent like the next 8 to 10 years in the corporate world in content, in editing, writing, technical writing, and also product management. So that's kind of where I spent the bulk of my time, I would say. And again, you ask yourself, are you running away or are you running towards? So by the point, I think it was 2016, I'm at Amazon, I'm burned out. I'm like, I hate my life. I hate these people. Like, I hate everything. Not a good place to be in. And of course, it wasn't them, it was me. But I wasn't taking responsibility for me, my life, my choices, my actions. The concept did not exist. So I sort of rage quit. And then I think, you know what, I'm going to start a photography business. And again, not the greatest story here, but I had just gotten married and I got my photos back from my photographer. And I was like, what the heck are these? These photos are so not good. And I paid $5,000 for this. Are you kidding me? And literally that's what starts my next 5 years. Is that. So again, I would say maybe at that point, I put a little bit more thought into it. I was taking some classes online, and in all of my family vacations, I was always the one taking pictures. I was the one who always put together the photo albums for us. I would actually create physical photo albums and wall art and things for our family. So I thought it made sense, but again, I would say that all of my choices up till now led me to getting closer and closer to what I do now as a coach, but it wasn't quite right. So each time it's like throwing darts at a dartboard. If you've ever played darts, when you're first just getting the feel for how the dart feels in your hand, and then you're getting the feel, can you even hit the board? And then you're like, oh, I made it on the board. Can I actually get closer to the bullseye? And that's what the process has been like for me.
I mean, basically you've described success as a shoe that looked good but didn't fit. I love that metaphor. Basically, what finally made you take that shoe off?
It was a lot of signals. And I think as a woman, also as an Asian, the Asian culture especially tells you to put your head down and just keep going along. Like, shut up and put up. Yeah. It was my health. So at Amazon, I think where you first read the shoe doesn't fit, it was a good looking shoe, man. I was making more money than I'd ever made. And I had the Amazon brand name behind me. I no longer had to explain to people what this company was that I worked for. I really liked that. My ego loved it. But that is when I started to suffer really major health issues. So I developed all the allergies. I developed ulcers. I had physical pain. Yeah, I had actual physical pain. I developed TMJ. I suddenly started developing chronic neck pain. It was insane. Yeah. So I was so uncomfortable.
Sounds terrible, really terrible. And so those experiences kind of helped you to see that, like, you have to start putting your priorities, yourself first, right?
I would like to say that I learned the lesson at that point, but as my dad says, I'm a hard-headed child. So at that point, I was still thinking, no, I gotta power through. I gotta power through. I gotta try harder. I'm not trying hard enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not working hard enough. But that was the first set of signals. And every time it's happened more than once, sad to say, is when your body hits the limit. You can no longer ignore it, right? Because you're either suffering migraines all the time like I was, or you develop chronic neck, back pain like so many of the people I knew. The ulcers, you can't even eat properly anymore. The TMJ, you can't even chew your food for a while like normal. Yeah, so for me, it took probably 2 or 3 times of this, like that extreme burnout and your body just sitting up screaming like F you, basically.
Yeah. I know a lot of people go through that. I mean, I've done that as well, just really trying to show yourself, I guess, and the world that, hey, no, this is a great, and I can still do it, and I can move forward, and I can climb that mountain. But sometimes you really need to give yourself credit for what you have done. You tried it out. Maybe it's not gonna work out. Now, you specialize in helping people overcome imposter syndrome, but you make a key distinction between self-doubt and actual imposter syndrome. So, what's the difference, and why do so many high achievers fall into that trap?
So that's a good question. And I find in the mainstream, people will use the terms interchangeably, and they're really not the same thing. So I would say self-doubt is much bigger. If we look at, it's like saying you have stores versus the grocery store, you know? So self-doubt is the much bigger scale of any time you question yourself, can I do this? Maybe I'm not good at this, maybe I'm not smart enough. Those are very common, typical self-doubt type of thoughts we'll have. What makes imposter syndrome what it is that I would say it's maybe 2 or 3 levels way deeper. So it's not just you're questioning yourself, but it's the fact that you have never really taken in what you've done so far. You don't own any of your successes. You don't own your achievements. So very typical examples are women who get hired to a job and they'll say, oh, they hired me because of my connections. Oh, they just liked me. Or since it's me and you talking, I have actually heard this many times. If it's a Black woman, I was a diversity hire. So
Wow.
you are not actually giving credit to yourself. You're constantly giving credit for what you have done to outside things, outside people. So you're constantly explaining your success away. And then this leads to that fear of you're about to be found out, you're about to be exposed as some kind of fraud, and then something bad is going to happen. So it's really that whole layer of you're about to be discovered as a fraud. That's what makes imposter syndrome what it is. And that's why, you have the word imposter in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Now, you've said confidence doesn't come before action, it comes from evidence. How can someone start building that evidence when their self-belief feels low?
The best way that I can explain this is that you create the evidence by taking action. So you want to think of this like riding a bike. You have one pedal, right? You push one pedal, and of course, what happens to the other pedal? It also turns. And this is kind of what happens. You push one by taking action, and then the confidence pedal turns. And you keep doing this long enough, and then what happens? You're riding the bike, you're moving forward. That's the evidence. So I would say we all generally start from a place of not quite sure whether to believe in ourselves. Maybe, maybe you're like some rare, lucky people out there who are just like, of course I can do that. Why wouldn't I be able to? I
Yeah,
find that that's
it
very
exists,
rare.
but it's rare. Yes,
Yeah,
it's
it
very rare.
exists. The privileged few. But
Yeah.
most of us will look at something and it looks hard. It looks kind of out of reach, and we'll be like, I don't know, man, that, you have that reaction. So
Yeah.
you have to actually do something about it. And I would say you have people like me where safety is really rooted in your knowledge. This is very common for people of color. We don't want to venture into something until we feel like we know all there is to know about it. So we'll research, we'll read the books, we'll watch the videos, listen to the podcasts. We're almost like a armchair PhD at that point. And then we'll be like, okay, and then I can start. And that's maybe a little helpful, but honestly, I don't think it's all that helpful, because there's the knowledge you gain by sitting on the sidelines, but then there's the knowledge you gain by actually doing something, and nothing beats what you learn by actually doing something.
Yeah, you get to gain that experience and gain that trust. That idea of trusting yourself instead of waiting to feel ready, that's powerful. I think that connects to what you're saying. For anyone who feels stuck in that loop of hesitation, what's the first move they can make today?
I would say look at what it is that you are wanting to do, and it can be anything. It can be something in your personal life. If you're like so many women out there who I hear talking, maybe they look amazing professionally, but their house is a wreck. They're like, I haven't done laundry in 2 months. So whether it's work or personal life or any other realm, you have to pick the something that you know you want to do, and then just pick one step towards it. And by one step, I'm not even saying it has to be that major. Like literally for me. So today I work out every day. When you and I met, I was not working out because I think that was like 5 years ago. I was not working out. And up until that point, my entire life, I'd always felt like there was no way I would ever be one of those people who'd be able to work out and actually get ripped. Am I ripped? Not really, but I'm way healthier in way better shape than I was when we first met.
That's great.
My first thought back then was always whenever the idea of working out or the gym came up, first thought was literally, that's too hard. I can't do that. It's okay to think those thoughts, but you got to remember, 99% of the time, it's only a problem because you think it is.
Yeah.
So you can have those thoughts and still do something in that direction. So for me, we got a rowing machine. And then I wasn't out there sitting, like I wasn't sitting in my living room thinking, oh, I'm going to be like a champion rower. I thought, I'm going to have some fun with this.
Yeah.
So let me just get on this thing and see how long I can go. And that usually when I'm at my best. If I don't set any crazy goal in mind and my only goal is for that moment, for that day, let me try this out and let's just see how much I can do. So that will look different from person to person. I would say just pick one small goal. So again, for working out, it used to be maybe I would just put on my workout clothes and I would just walk for 5 minutes. And if I got 5 minutes, then that was great. But what usually happens is you walk for 5 minutes and you're like, that wasn't that bad. Let me walk for 10 more minutes. And then before you know it, it's been like 30 minutes. So you got to get started.
Yeah, get started so you can get it at least, closer to getting it done. One of your recent posts stopped me in my scroll. You said, I used to do the full work for half the pay because I wanted to be nice. That line hit home for me. What finally made you stop negotiating your worth down?
Okay, before I answer that, why did you have that reaction? Because that sounds personal.
Well, I mean, for me, a lot of times when I'm looking for a position in the past, I'm always looking at the pay and I'm always trying to look at the experience to see whether or not I'm going to fit. If it's too high, maybe I'm thinking that I might not be a good fit. I'm already pushing myself out of the job and I'm capable of it. And a lot of times in a lower position, you're still doing those types of things. So, for me, I feel like I needed to be more confident. Just recently, I did interview for a pretty big leadership position with a governmental agency that I really didn't think I would be able to qualify for it, but that same idea came back to me before. It took me a while to apply because I'm like, look at the pay and look at, I don't know, that kind of thing.
That's pretty common. And I remember there was a client I had, he saw his dream job out there. It was for AI director or something. And this was, I don't know, 2 years ago. So AI was a little bit newer. And the job was posted at 400,000 a year. And it was that pay, just like what you're saying. You look at the pay and then you look at the skills and then you start to doubt yourself immediately just looking at the number. Yeah. So there's something that we all do, which is really funny because we confuse the worth that our work has versus the worth that we have as people.
Yeah.
And so one of the first things that I think we all have to learn is that we as people, as human beings, we are priceless. As corny and as cheesy as that sounds, it is the truth, right? Because there's only ever one of us.
Yeah, I say it all the time.
But the same cannot be said about your work. And the thing that I think people do not understand about how the hiring process runs is that you have these salary bands for any position that's put out there. And maybe it's posted at 400, or maybe you see a range, or maybe you see nothing. You don't know. You have no idea. And you also have no idea who else is applying to these roles. And if there's anything that I've seen so far in life is that it's a weird thing where the smarter you are, the more fear you feel. So a lot of times you'll have less qualified people reaching for the stars because they simply don't know that it can't be done.
It's true.
So it's like, I think we could all take a leaf from their book and apply some of the same mindset, because what do you have to lose? Like, honestly, what do you have to lose for trying? Like, what do you think is going to happen? You apply, you never hear back. So what? You move on. You apply to the next job. You try to learn along the way. and see what you can do differently next time. Yeah, so my client, he never even applied for the role. And I was disappointed for him because I think he would have been great. You know, again, I can't complain because that is why people choose to work with me because they realize that they are just passing these opportunities by because they are living in fear.
Definitely. I mean, and once you can get over that, the opportunities could be endless. In social work, leadership, and advocacy, people are constantly told to give more, do more, be flexible. How do you hold your boundaries in a culture that praises burnout?
So there are a couple of pieces to this, and I would say one of the key issues I see in any version of this conversation is that people do not understand what boundaries mean. So I'm going to lay this out there just so that we're on the same page. From a layman's perspective, just, you know, a normal person's perspective, you want to think of boundaries as what you are and are not okay with. Basically, what is okay for other people to do to you or with you or around you in your presence, essentially. And so first, you have to actually understand yourself. The hardest situations will come when these are situations we've never experienced. We've never even thought about these things, which is why so much of the work that I do with people, especially younger folk, so teenagers or early 20s, they don't have that life experience yet in order to know what is okay with them and what is not okay. So that's like a really key thing you have to go through and like really evaluate. And the way that I like to talk about this is think of how people have certain foods they like and don't like. Everybody has different food preferences, and the same is true about boundaries. You may be okay with something that I am not okay with, and that's totally fine. So one of the key mistakes I see people going into boundaries is thinking that there is some objective standard or measure for having a boundary, and really there isn't. There are some small key areas where obviously to hurt someone else, to cause any kind of damage or harm, not a good idea. Most people will have a boundary around respect and disrespect. Most people will really have a problem with disrespect, etc., right? But anything other than, I would say, like probably 10 key areas, outside of those things, everything else is really up to you. And then people have a hard time because they don't actually take the time to define what is okay with them and what is not okay. And what about what's the in between? So then you take a person like that who doesn't really know who they are, you plop them into a high pressure job such as social work or even corporate or entrepreneur, a startup, any of these really fast paced environments where there's a lot of work and it's a constantly heavy load. And then you have the pressures and the demands of the business or the work, the job coming at you. You have people who need so much from you. And then if you have also not defined your sense of self-worth, you are going to be in big trouble, just like I was at Amazon, because so many people pleasers end up in this place where their whole worth is only defined relative to what they do for other people. And that is going to be a major problem. So then you talk about the hustle culture. The hustle culture will feed into this myth that you're not worth anything unless you are contributing 110% all the time. And then I'm thinking, okay, but would you drive your car 24 hours a day without giving it a tune-up? Without giving it an oil change? Would you drive it 24 hours a day every single day for a year and expect it to stay in good shape? Of course not. It doesn't work that way. And the problem is that with a car, if you don't give it gas and it runs out of gas, it stops driving. So you face like a hard limit. The human body is this miracle where it can actually go without resources for quite a while. But then that's the dangerous part for us, is where we ignore the warning signs until you bump up against like a serious health issue, like what I described earlier.
Yeah, definitely. Burnout is real. And once people sometimes realize that that's what it is, it's sometimes too late. And that's the unfortunate issue. We really want for people to become aware of that and to take care of themselves in the moment. You wrote about spending 20 years in an abusive relationship with your inner critic, and that really resonated with people. Why do we think being hard on ourselves is the only way to grow?
I think a lot of it is cultural. Your family, your culture, your race, it could be anything, your ethnicity. For some reason, most of us seem to grow up in environments where we're surrounded by people who have treated us a certain way. So for example, my parents, They were extremely critical of me constantly. I think they've probably told me I've done a good job less than 10 times in my life. If we say, how many times have they said that they're proud of me? I don't know, maybe 2 times in my life. It's not like I'm counting or anything, but it's just a fact. I don't
Yeah.
hold it against them because I know that that is the culture. That is how they grew up. Depending on your culture, you may be like how many Asians are. The older generation, they ration encouragement and positivity. Like there's like a limited supply of these things. And psychology being where it is today is not in the same place where it was 40 years ago. It was a very different field. And so you have how you were raised, but then you have how you were not actually raised. No one ever told you to treat yourself kinder. And even if they did, they didn't actually explain anything in any meaningful way to help you understand that how you think and how you talk to yourself will matter more than anything else out there in the world. It is the number one factor for your success or lack of.
Absolutely. How do you think someone could start changing that inner voice? Not really like overnight, but in daily practice.
Well, this is probably not going to be popular. But like with all problems, you first have to admit that you have a problem. You have to admit that the way that you treat yourself is probably not how you would treat other people. There's a reason why there's a meme out there that says, if I treated somebody else the way I treated myself, I would be in jail. And we laugh at that, but it's also true. I think it's very true. I tolerate certain things from myself, or I used to, that I would never tolerate from other people. And then I would do things to myself that I would never do to other people. So then why would you do that? Why would you put yourself in a position lower towards yourself than you would with other people? Because then you're literally placing other people higher than you. You are treating them as more important. And so then psychologically, you are teaching yourself that other people matter more than you. So you need to take the lay of the land. You want to work with somebody if you can, or at the very least, start a journal. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You want to capture those thoughts running through your head, the things that you most commonly tell yourself. So for example, one of the things that I used to tell myself all the time, because that's what my family told me, is that I was lazy. So if I didn't do enough work, first thing I thought at myself was, why are you so effing lazy?
Yeah.
If I got something wrong on a test, the next first thought would be, why are you so dumb?
Wow.
Why don't you ever learn? Because again, it was the voice of my parents.
Right.
So number one, you want to understand that that inner voice, for the most part, is not really your voice. We're not born into this world beating ourselves up. That is a learned behavior. So you want to identify the sources in your life, whether it's your parents, maybe it was teachers. I think there was a story, and there are multiple stories of really famous people, you know, people like Kanye, where maybe it was a mentor or a teacher who told them just the most jacked up things of how they would never make it in this world, or, you know, they would be a janitor or something. So you got to figure out, like, where is that voice coming from and whose voice is it? And then you want to start that log of what are the most commonly recurring things I think or tell myself, and capture those and then really look at it. Because what's interesting is that when we're only thinking these things, it doesn't seem so bad. But when you actually speak it, it's like, oh. And then when other people hear you say those things, to see the reactions of other people and how much it shocks them and how much it hurts them, to hear how you treat yourself will be a game changer.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I've actually seen that in action a few times. Like, are you talking to yourself? Are you really saying that to yourself right now? Yeah, it's like, no, that is not appropriate. People are like, oh, you heard me? Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Let's fix that right now. So
Yeah.
that kind of leads me into my next kind of quote from you. You've said you don't have to beat the world to the punch, right? So that's such a profound reminder. You don't have to beat the world to the punch. How did you learn to have your own back?
Ooh, that is a tough question. You know, it's not like it was all in one moment, right? Like it's several moments that kind of build up over the years. I remember the first turning moment was realizing I was getting so agitated over the things that don't really matter. I mean, maybe there would be stress in the moment because I used to be that person who would constantly misplace my keys. It took me a long time to realize you need to have like one place for your keys and always like put them.
Yeah. Me
And
all day. I have to have that one place every.
yeah, and I don't want to admit how long it took me to figure that out. It sounds so simple to many people. It was not simple to me. It was not obvious. But I'm not joking. I swear every time I couldn't find my keys before that point, I would get so angry at myself. I would just, I would literally be so angry that I would be sweating. I'll be sweating and sometimes I would even be crying like a crazy person. And then finally one day I was just so fed up. I was so tired of being so emotional all the time. And I remember thinking, why am I doing this to myself? Like it's not the end of the world. Maybe I'm gonna be a little bit late for the next thing that I gotta show up to.
Yeah.
And the realization was, I get enough of this crap from my parents.
Mhm.
The last thing I need is more of that, especially from myself. So that was the first turning point for me. I was like, I already got to put up with it from them. I don't need any more of this, so I'm done with that with myself. The second point came probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so. Because again, you don't know that you really have a problem until you really look at yourself. And most of us need some point of relativity. We need to have other people and their experiences and have some comparison point in order to realize, wait a minute, the way that I'm doing this is not great. Like there could be a better way. So then it was meeting certain people in my life and suddenly understanding that when people say you really need to take it easier on yourself. As a child, my first answer was like shut up, no way. Like or I would just be like, yeah, whatever, and then I would just go right back to doing what I was doing.
Hard on yourself.
Yeah. But then to realize from a psychological standpoint that if you keep doing that to yourself, right, you have nowhere to go but down.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll get some success. So earlier, I think you asked, why do so many people do this? It's because most of us are trapped in the paradigm where we think that that gets us results. The truth is, it does get us some results. But what we don't understand earlier on is that those results are short term. You can only go so far in life if you keep doing that. So at some point, you need to switch up the game. You need to switch up the rules you're playing under and decide for yourself that you not only want, but you deserve a better life. And there's no one stopping you from treating yourself better. Like, really.
Yeah, it's you. It's you stopping you, and you gotta
Yeah.
look at yourself first before you expect anyone else. You treat yourself with that level of respect, then other people can also recognize how they need to treat you as well.
Yeah. And just like you said, the world is so full of people out there just waiting to tear you down. So
Yeah.
why on earth would you beat them to it? That's
Yeah.
so unnecessary. It's hard enough to make it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you teach executive presence, and you've worked with leaders at major companies. What's the biggest myth about confidence or leadership you keep seeing?
I think it depends on who it is. So let's start with women. The biggest thing that I keep having to sort of reset that expectation or that view is that women will generally think that they have to present like a man.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be super aggressive and they have to be loud and commanding and almost like be a jerk. And that's just, maybe that works for some people, but that's just not what I'm about. For me, to be confident is to be in integrity with yourself, is to
Yeah.
pull forth the real traits you genuinely have, and to be able to present those in a way so that you can command the room and to show people that you are just sharing your message from a place where you are grounded in yourself. And it's probably the biggest thing that I have to keep challenging with my clients because probably two words come to mind every time. First one is I don't want to be aggressive, and number two, I don't want to be mean.
Yeah.
So so then it's like, okay, well then what does aggressive mean? And then what does mean mean? And that's where people usually fail. They've put themselves in a position where they think that to put themselves first is somehow mean, to have a different opinion is somehow mean. And I was like, do you understand that those are the traits that actually signal leadership?
Yes, exactly. One of my favorite quotes is, I'm not mean, I mean what I say. So
Oh, that's
So
so good.
I'm just being honest with you right now. I'm not being mean. I just mean what I say, and this is the way it's going to go. So, in a leadership position, exactly, you have to do it especially within social work, a trauma-informed way. But there are also those times where I'm like, listen, the back and forth is over. We need to move forward and we need to move in this direction. You also coach people through job interviews. I love your line, you're not auditioning, you're assessing. Can you unpack that mindset shift for us?
Yeah, I would love to, especially because right before we came on this call, I was looking at a Reddit thread, and I don't know why I torture myself looking at these posts that people put up on Reddit on these job interview things. And
Yeah.
they'll say like they haven't gotten any interviews, in which case I'm like, you absolutely have a resume problem, or somehow everybody else is more qualified than you. There's something about how you are applying that is just not working in the system. But then they'll have the interview, and if they've had, my rule is the rule of four. So if it's four, then you got to do more. As in 4 interviews with no offer, or not even like second or third round, fourth round interview.
Yeah.
If you never make it past the first interview, then you got to do some work. You got to do more. And what that usually means is most people I see going into the interview, they treat it like they got to prove themselves, hence the auditioning energy. They feel very desperate, and you can see it in how they talk. So what I like about you, Giovanni, is you talk a little bit slower than a lot of people do. You don't rush to talk or to respond to me. You don't talk over me. And unfortunately, I see that happening in job interviews all the time. How do I know? Because I asked them to send me their recording. So
Yeah.
number one, they don't want to record because they're embarrassed. But then when they finally do it and I get it, and I'm like, yeah, you keep cutting the other person off. That is totally not acceptable. You need to stop doing that. So that's a little bit of that auditioning energy. You're so desperate. You keep trying to like tell them, you keep trying to persuade them and to convince them that they should hire you. And if anything, you pushing like that makes you less desirable. You do not seem like a competent person doing that. So if you stop coming into this thing as in, I got to prove myself and then I got to beg for this opportunity, like you already lost. You want to come into this with the realization that you are there to interview the company as well. They're interviewing you, but you are also interviewing them. And guess what? A lot of the companies you interview for, they're not going to be a fit either. You won't like it. You will see certain things about the person in front of you or some of the other people in front of you. If you're well versed enough in interview techniques, in interview prep, then hopefully you would spend at least 5 minutes asking what the culture is like. What do they think is the most challenging part of being on that team? Something that's not immediately apparent on the job description. And you will try to read between the lines and see what's actually going on. That's what I mean by assessing. You are there to share information. Here's some experience you have. You want to know about the company, the information that's not readily available already. And then you want to see what information they're giving you in their communication style. You'll be able to tell a lot if you do this right.
Yeah, it's really important. You don't want to waste a lot of that time just, applying, going through the interview process, and then you hate it. That's time that you could have spent looking for your perfect opportunity. Nothing's really going to be perfect, but it's got to be better than 60-70% for you to really want to stick around in that position.
That's really unusual that you said that. What I find interesting is I've only ever heard that sort of mindset coming from men. Women, I've never heard a woman ever express that mindset, that the job has to be at least 60 to 70%, of which I absolutely agree, because I'm like, if you don't love it, or let's say you don't even like it, you barely like it.
Yes.
If you go into this thing where you barely tolerate it, you are going to bounce 3 months later, 6 months later. You're probably not going to last a year.
Yeah, and they'll probably get rid of you before you get rid of them, which also breeds a lot of, I guess, animosity. Could be something that comes up for people when they've overstayed their own welcome. They know for themselves it's not the job for them, but then the company also realizes it as well, and it's like, but wait, like I'm showing my allegiance to you. And it shouldn't be about that. It should be about you first. You first. So you've said that honesty builds more trust than performance. How do you balance confidence with humility in high stakes settings?
So this is another one of those definition pieces, because I think people don't understand what it really means to be humble. We generally tend to think of the idea of being humble as somehow constantly like downplaying yourself. And if you look up the definition of humble, that's not actually what it means. So confidence and being humble are actually very similar. For me, humble, because I did a whole deep dive into it because I'm obsessive like that. You want to think of humble as being you are taking a good look at the full picture. That includes your weaknesses, yes, but that also includes your strengths. You are able to properly attribute your success to the right channels. So the difference between somebody who's humble versus arrogant is the person who says, I made it all the way here with no help. I did it all by myself. And we all know that is bullshit. As soon as you hear somebody say that, that's bullshit. Okay. So that's someone who's gone over and past the line of truth. I like to think of humble as being right on the line, because they are all about telling the truth. So it is the person who does not need to feel they have to overplay their achievements, but also they're not going to underplay. And this is where I think so much of culture gets it wrong.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, Jule, this has been incredible. You've given us humor, truth, and so much to think about. Now, for anyone who's watching, who's battling imposter syndrome, people pleasing, or burnout, what's one truth you want them to remember?
This might sound odd, but the number one thing that I really want people to understand is that there is nothing wrong with you. There really isn't. Anything that you are doing, anything that you are having a hard time with, that could change any second.
Where can people find you, connect with you, or work with you directly?
These days, I'm most commonly found on LinkedIn. So if you look me up, Jule Kim, JuleKim, you may have to also put in PCC in the search bar for me to actually pull up. Yeah, but if you find my profile and connect with me, send me a message, any of those, that'll work.
Awesome. And you also have a website too, right?
Yes, my website, should you choose to actually go there, adviceactually.com. You can also drop me a message or schedule a consult call with me there. Thank you so much.
Yes, Advice Actually. It's an amazing name. I think that, it really speaks well to what you do, and congratulations on all of your success. Jule Kim, everybody, thank you for joining me on the Giovanne Show. And remember, confidence isn't arrogance, it's alignment. Until next time, I'm Giovanne Show, and this is the Giovanne Show. Let's get it.